All right. Greetings, everybody. Greetings, men. Welcome back to the I Am Him podcast, this men's empowerment podcast. Guys, I'm here. Just like we talked about last week, guys, we got to dispel a lot of myths, a lot of foolishness that's going out there in the world so we can learn to be the men that we're supposed to be. Learn to be the leaders, providers, and protectors that God has designed us to be from the very beginning. And let me also say this, and I probably said it the last time as well, and you'll probably hear me say it again. You don't become a leader, provider, and protector just when you get married. That's not how it works. We are literally designed that way from the very beginning to lead, to provide, to protect for anyone in our vicinity. That is our charge. That is what's built into us, into our DNA. That's what's built into us, right? So that's the purpose of this podcast, guys. We're trying to get us men, trying to get us where we're supposed to be, back into position, back into a place of honor, back into a place where people can look at us and rely on us to come through for them like we're supposed to, right? That's the whole purpose of this podcast, to build us up from not just the young men, but even us as older men who have experience, who maybe haven't got those lessons and got those messages that we should have got when we were younger. That's the purpose. That's why we are here. And so today we're going to talk about logic versus emotions. Right? Really, really big, really big. And I touched on some of these things, like these are some threats to men, right? But the whole idea of that men are only supposed to be logical. We are not supposed to engage with emotion at all. That's not what we're supposed to do, right? That's what we've been told. That's what we've been taught. We've been taught you need to suppress those emotions. You're feeling too much. That's feminine. That makes you like a female. That's not what you're supposed to do. Push that stuff down, push to the side, and keep moving forward. No one cares. Just push to the side. Like, this is what we're being told. And this buildup is what's killing us. It's what's killing our relationships. It's what's killing our marriages. It's what's killing us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It is killing us holding all this stuff in and believing this lie that's been parroted for years and years and years and years, for generations. It's a lie that we are not allowed to feel. We are only allowed to operate in logic. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Have we been conditioned that way? Of course we have. All of us have. I have been too. It's so ingrained in us that when I do my counseling sessions with couples, I see it every single time. Well, not every single time, because you never see everything every single time. Majority of the time, the woman is saying one thing on an emotional level, the guy's saying something on a logical level, and their fight ensues because they're not talking about the same thing. Right? They're not even at the same level. They're not matching each other. Why? Because us guys, we're just trying to solve a problem. That's it. What's the problem? Logically thinking, right? Like, hey, if this is causing you a problem, then if you stop doing this or if you start doing this, problem solved. I don't understand what's all we need to talk about emotions and how you're feeling and all this stuff like that. That's where a lot of us live. And listen, I tell you, I was there at one point in time too, and did a lot of damage in my relationship. Thank God that I was able to learn different, learn better, and start changing and doing things and recognizing that it is okay to have feelings. It's okay to express those feelings. It's about how we express those feelings. I'm kind of jumping the gun right now, getting a little ahead of myself, because what I really want to do first, I want to address the myths that we've been told and sold as men. And the first myth I want to address is that logic is the only way we are supposed to be, right? That's the only thing we're supposed to use. That's the only faculty we are supposed to have. And again, just like I was saying, that's what we've been taught. That's what we've been conditioned. And I want you to think about this. I was reading a book. It was called Man's Guide to Women. But one in this book, it was actually another book as well, is talking about some of that condition as we're growing up, right? As men, we think about, okay, what's the task at hand? What's the thing we're trying to accomplish? And one of the things they brought it back to was, look at any playground. And this hit me because I was like, dang, I used to actually work a playground when I was working at the elementary school. And I would just see how the boys would play versus how the girls would play. And they were spot on. So the boys would play just like this. They're playing a sport, something's going on. Somebody in that group has an issue, right? What do the boys do? Okay, how can we solve your issue so we can get back to the game? Logic, right? I don't get the ball enough. All right, hey y'all, when he's open, hit him with the ball. Or I want to turn to play quarterback, or whatever issue it is. When it comes to us as men, we're looking straight at the problem. What is a thing that is stopping us from doing what we need to do? And then let's solve that and move forward. That's what we do. And let me also say, that's not bad. Let me also say this. Logic is not bad. I'm just simply telling you that this is what we do. This is how we operate and how to move about this and how to basically just how to incorporate emotion. So we'll get to that in a second, though, but not right now. But this is what we're told. So this is how we're conditioned. We focus on solving the issue at hand, because if we think if we solve the problem, then there shouldn't be an emotional disturbance. And that logically makes sense, because if you're sad because you have to, your wife comes home and she's sad because she has to go to work, and you're like, hey, then just quit your job. Like, just quit your job. You don't need to work. You're good. But yet for some reason she's not happy. It's like, well, what's the problem? We just solved the problem. Quit. You're good. Why do I got to go through all these emotional, hoops with you? Just quit your job, put in the 2 weeks, and then we're good. Like, but it doesn't work that way. Right? Okay. So that's the first myth, right? The second myth is stoicism is to be valued above all else. And for anyone who doesn't know what stoicism is, it's basically having a very neutral approach to whatever it is the situation is, right? A very non-emotional approach. Now, let me also say this. I'll get into the truths later, but that is essentially what a lot of guys do. And it attaches to that logic, because to be a stoicist, what you need to do is you got to be logical and you got to focus and stay in that moment. And then they say, okay, well, does it make sense for me to have an emotional response? All right, what's going on right now that I need to accomplish? Let me just focus on that. Okay, I threw an interception. All right, that sucks. What I got to do better to move forward, right? Okay, my wife, again, back to the same thing. She has an issue. She has a problem. Okay, how can we solve this problem so it's no longer an issue, right? Do I need to pay to get someone to pick the kids up? Do I need to do whatever, right? It's like, that's the thing. Like, oh, if you're a real man, if you're a high value man, if you're whatever, like, you got to be a stoic, and then you got to make sure that you don't show any emotion. You keep all that stuff down. You lock that down altogether. So should be our normal mode of operation. That's that myth number 2. Now, myth number 3 is that emotional expression makes one weak, makes a man weak. Any man that's expressing his emotions, expressing his feelings, is a weak man. Right. So that's the next one, right? And we've seen that. We talked about that last time, about how when guys will try to open up and share something, that they get ridiculed and put down and shamed. Other guys will see that and then also not want to open up, because we've been taught and conditioned it is not manly. It is not something that we should do. It's not becoming of a man to share our emotions, to share our feelings. And if you approach a situation and you have an emotion about it and you share it, you're not a man. You're weak. That's the other myth when it comes to this whole idea of logic, right? So now let's go ahead and bust these myths up, right? So again, the first one was that logic above all else, right? It should be just pure logic, no emotion. Well, that's false. That's not how we are supposed to operate as men. We cannot operate that way effectively and efficiently, optimally, without being able to navigate our feelings and navigate our emotions. So I don't want to tie it all together, but we need to be able to access our emotions. There is power in emotions. Emotions get things done. They move us. We are not robots. We're not designed to be robots at all. And sometimes we think that that's what we're supposed to be. We're not robots. We are a human beings that are made in the image of God, and God has emotions. So if we're made in his image and he has emotions and he shares his emotions, then daggone, we are supposed to do the exact same thing. And I'll talk about how to share emotions, because there's a way to go about doing it that still is still in line with being a man. There are ways for us to express ourselves that are still in line with us being a man, but it's not this suppress it all the time and just operate straight from logic. We can't do that. There's some decisions that require not only a logic, but they also require emotion. And it's only when you learn how to navigate between the two, learn how to use two. Because again, like I was saying before, I'm not saying not to have logic. We got to. We shouldn't just be all emotion, right? We need to have logic to kind of balance that out, but we also need the emotion to balance out the logic so we can truly make the best choice there, best choice available. Operate and make choices optimally. Choices are made optimally when you balance the two. All right. So the next one, right? The next truth, all right, about being stoic. Listen, it's not for every situation. Being stoic is not for every situation. Every man needs to have this in his inventory. Don't get me wrong. Every man needs to have this in his inventory. Because guess what? If I'm on the playing field with somebody, we don't have time for you to have a breakdown right now. I'm sorry, we don't. We gotta win. All right. I need you to throw that ball on point. You can't be worrying about what happened 2 or 3 plays ago. I need you to, if you fumble the ball, I don't need you worried about that. I need you to, because I'm blocking for you. So I need you to just be in your head and know, okay, I made a mistake, but I won't do it again. Let me keep pushing forward. We don't have time to process those emotions. That's what stoicism is for. It's for when those times we don't have, it's for when we don't have the time to process the emotion in the moment. If I'm in the middle of a battle and I'm in a firefight, I don't have time for you. My life is on the line. Our battalion's life is on the line. We don't have time for you to have an emotional breakdown. Yes, I know someone just got killed next to you. We don't have time to process that right now. We need you to hold it together so we can move forward and accomplish the objective. And then when we're done and there is time, that's when we get the time to process it. So you see what I'm saying? Like stoicism has its place. I'm not saying that we should not be stoic. We need to have that. There are plenty of times when I would need to be stoic. I remember one time, and it's definitely not as extreme as what we were just talking about. But I remember one time, actually just recently, my son had to go to this thing at a fancy place, some like not like Cravison, that's in Florida, but like, you know what, some performing arts type place where you got to get all jazzed up and suit and tie and all that stuff like that. And he went to school like, you know, with like a hoodie on and some sweatpants or something like that. So that obviously wasn't gonna fly. And so, you know, I just got out my session. I'm talking to my wife. We're trying to figure it out, you know, and not saying she was out of control or emotional or whatnot, but she was kind of like, you know, well, you know, hey, we can just get it next time. We'll figure it out, whatever. In that moment, I operated in stoicism. I was a stoic in that moment because I'm like, okay, I don't have time to try to talk about what we're going to do later. I need to get this man's suit right now. That's what I need to do. I don't need to know about what's not working. I need to focus on what I'm doing right now. That's what I need to focus on. I don't have time for any of that right now. I don't have time to process any of that right now. I understand, blah, blah, blah. I don't have time for that. I got a job and a mission to do right now. So I operated in stoicism and got it done. I went into the store. I found the clothes. I found the shoes. I found the belt. I found the socks. I found everything he needed so we can go to school, get him dressed, and get him on that bus so he can go to his event. Then afterwards, we stopped and we talked and we processed it. That's how stoicism works. It should not be your main mode of operation. You should not be a stoic if your wife is crying to you about something or bringing up a concern to her, something that hurt her, right? That's a time for you to be able to start using your emotions, start empathizing with your wife. If someone's going through a hard time and it's not time, and there's no competition, there's no battle, nothing like that, and you have the time to help them process through it, then that's what needs to happen in that moment. We need to use it as something in a tool belt, our repertoire, our emotional repertoire, right? But we got to learn how to navigate that. That's what I'm talking about. So being a stoic is not a bad thing. You just shouldn't have to be a stoic all the time. Because guess what? Being a stoic means also, again, suppressing your emotion. And there are times when we have to do that, but we should not do it all the time because that's not how we're designed. And that's when we end up getting these diseases and we don't know where they came from. That's when our heart pressure, our blood pressure goes up and we don't know why. We keep holding all this stuff in. If you think that your emotions and things like that have nothing to do with your physical health, you are 110% wrong. 110% wrong. That's why it's so important for us as men to start learning how to navigate our emotions, which then this goes to my third point, the third truth. And the truth is, when you see a man who's emotional, and when I mean emotional, I mean that it's uncontrollable. And you might think, because when you think emotion, oh, he's just crying all the time. He's just whining all the time. Those guys who rage, those guys who can't control their anger, you guys are also emotional. You might, those guys who want to get all big and bad and big in the chest in the boardroom, you are emotional. Those guys who are super, super anxious all the time, you can't control it. That's emotional. And let me explain it. You guys aren't weak. You guys aren't bad. That's not what you guys are. You guys don't have the skills necessary to manage your emotions properly. That's it. It's not that your emotions are bad. And generally speaking, when you see any of those guys in those situations, I can guarantee again with 100% accuracy that they've been suppressing it, and then it comes out. When they feel offended, it's like, no, I got to fix that. Not talking through, I got to fix that because no one's going to talk to me that way. You know, when they said intense anxiety, it's because I can't open up and share what's going on because then it makes me look weak. You got those guys who might, start crying the drop of a dime. It's too much of an overflow, so it just explodes out and they can't control it. This all comes from us not being able to process our emotions properly in a safe place. We need to learn how to manage our emotions. We need to learn what our emotions are telling us. So being emotional, I know we think about that, right? We think of it in a negative way, but we need to start thinking about, can you control them or you cannot control them? It doesn't make you weak. It just means you don't have the prerequisite skills. You don't know how to control your emotions because you haven't been taught how to control your emotions. That's all. And ultimately, before we start getting on those guys and like, oh, well, they're weak or whatever, the guys who I was once one as well, who suppress our emotions, we're really no better. It might seem like we are like, well, you don't see me crying all the time or raging or getting mad and yelling and, so I'm some superior man. I'm some alpha male or whatever. And we'll talk about the classifications next week. But no, because we're supposed to be able to express our emotions. We just don't know how. And that's why if any man's never been in a relationship, you ever get to that point where you just shut down, she brings an emotional thing to you and all of a sudden you don't know what to say. You're locked up. Mind you, you can be on stage and just talk. You can talk to your friends. You can talk here. You can talk there and anywhere in your domain. But when she says, hey, I'm feeling hurt because of ABC, we don't know what to say. It's not because we don't love our wives. It's simply because we don't know how to manage the emotions. We don't know what to do with what she's bringing to us. But I'm telling you right now, there's a way. There's a way for us to manage our emotions. There's a way for us to learn the message that they're telling us. I'm going to tell you this right now, fellas. Our emotions, there are no good or bad emotions. There are no positive or negative emotions. There are pleasurable emotions and there are unpleasurable emotions or undesirable emotions. But all of them, ultimately, they're just signals. They're signals from our brain that something's going on. That's it. It's not a sign of you're weak. It's not a sign of anything like that. It's just signals from your brain trying to tell you something. That's how our brain sends us messages, consciously messages. Dang, we're angry. We're frustrated. That's the message it's sending. So we can then lock in, okay, well, what's making us frustrated? What's going on? How can we resolve this issue? How can we make it so we can clear this frustration from the brain? How can we do that? That's what those messages give. Oh, I'm scared. Okay, what can we do? I'm having anxiety. Okay, what can I do? I'm jealous. Okay, what can I do to resolve that issue, resolve that problem? And what we need to do, one of some things we need to do, we need to learn how to start regulating our body, our breathing. We got to start regulating that so we can get in that space where we can start analyzing those emotions in real time and figuring out what's going on. And then over time, what you're going to see and what you're experiencing, you're going to start seeing that, oh, when that comes, I already know what that pattern is. I know exactly where that's coming from. Just yesterday, actually, I was talking with my wife and I felt like this feeling of overwhelm come over me. Right. It was I recognized that I missed a phone call or something like that, or a consultation. I missed a consultation with a potential client, and I And then from that moment, I just felt like this overwhelm. Like there was just so much going on. And truth be told, there wasn't that much going on, but I think there were so many things in my head. So what I started doing, I started processing through that. Okay, well, why am I feeling this way? What's going on? When did it happen? What triggered it? And I started bouncing it off my wife. Like, yeah, I was feeling this way, I'm feeling that way, blah, 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 whatever. We're going back and forth. I think, yeah, that's what it is. I think it's just that on top of that, I'm tired and blah, blah, blah. I got the message. The brain said, hey, we're overwhelmed, right? We're overwhelmed and we're tired. Bro, we need to get some rest. So what do? Went out to dinner. I got the boys from karate and we went out to dinner and I came home. You know what? I went and took a nap. Guess what? Feeling overwhelmed went away, gone. And I'm right back to, matter of fact, as soon as I got my nap, I got back to my computer and started going to work. So I say all this to say, get the message that your brain is telling you through the emotion. Instead of running from them, we need to say, okay, this is what it is. Instead of suppressing it, we need to say, this is what it is. And I'm actually going to build out a podcast, not specifically just for men, but for really anybody, because everybody needs to understand the messages that our emotions are giving us. I think it's like 16 emotions I have on there that I'm going to talk about what the emotion is telling you, and then what you can do to clear that. Right, what you need to do. And some, obviously, there are going to be some positive ones on there, some, pleasurable ones, I should say. Obviously, if something's going on, that's just a recognition of, I like this, so I'm going to do more of this, right? So say all that to say, guys, listen, we don't need to be scared of our emotions. We don't need to stay and just be logical all the time. There's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place for logic. There's a time and place for emotion. There's a time and place where they both overlap. And a lot of times, because we're dealing with people, logic and emotion overlap. That's where grace and mercy and stuff comes in. As a leader, we have to be able to empathize with the people that we're leading. We have to understand that, okay, they're going to possibly be going through something, okay? And I'm not saying we got to be soft. Let me also say that. Right. So in no way, shape, or form, if you got that from what I said, he's saying guys need to be soft. If you got that, you are sorely and sadly mistaken. You missed it. Maybe you need to stop, go back to the beginning, maybe go watch the other one, maybe go watch some other podcasts, some other videos. In no way, shape, or form, I ever say any man needs to be soft. I don't believe in that at all. What I'm saying is, as a leader, we got to know how to operate so we can best cultivate the people we are leading, so we can operate in our position effectively and efficiently. So we can reach the people like we need to reach the people to affect the influence that we need. And we are designed and born to influence, right? That's what I'm talking about. But we can't do that unless we start expressing our emotions and learn how to do it and learn how to have control over our thoughts and control over our feelings. And know, okay, this is coming up. Okay, and she said this, dang, I didn't like that. And just be honest and say, hey, I don't like when you said that. That rubbed me the wrong way. And let me also say this, when I'm talking about emotions and stuff like that, you can still have your own spin and your own flair and your own personality on it. I'm not saying you got to be like, I'm feeling hurt because I have a podcast that talks about using I statements and things like that. And I also say in that podcast, you got to practice it and then put your own spin on it. Because I'm not expecting people to go and have conversations that are robotic like that. Like, you are a whole human being, a whole personality. There's so much to you. So the way you can say it might be different than what's there, but I'm just trying to give you all the template. So if you want to go and see that about how to communicate and share what you're thinking and feeling, you can go to that podcast and check that out. I'm talking about communication, I statements, but I'm definitely going to go and have another one about talking about the different emotions. I definitely suggest you guys check it out. I'll try to put the links in the description so y'all can hit it up once it's done. I still got to record it, but I have the whole lesson ready. But guys, listen to what I'm saying. It's not logic versus emotion. It's not. It's both together. Us as men, we got to have both together. We do. I mean, women should too, but women are definitely going to be more emotional than men. They are more emotional than men. That's just biological makeup. That's just the way it is. Because guess what? Emotion works well with them, because emotion with them, because they're designed to nurture and amplify that emotional energy or whatnot, or whatever you want to call it. It works really good for nurturing something and amplifying things. It really does. So that's probably why they got all that emotional energy or whatnot, and why they're able to do that, in addition to the conditioning as well. But I don't think women are conditioned like men are conditioned, to be 100% honest with you. I think men are conditioned more so to not show emotions as far, but women, I guess if there's any condition to go on women, it's that it's be all emotion and no logic, which is not the way to go either, right? Again, we got to have that balance of both, but women are going to have more of that emotional side, and that's okay. Us as men, we got to have that balance, right? We can't be all the way far left logic or all the far right emotion. It shouldn't be that. We got to be in the middle. We got to be the steady head, right? We got to be steady, but we got to learn how to operate with our emotions. So, fellas, like I said, I'll get the resources together. I'll put it in there. If you don't, obviously, if it's not going to be there right now because I haven't recorded it, but maybe I'll put a PDF or something, get something out there. I'm gonna make a workbook about it as well. So I'm gonna get this information to us because I think it's gonna be important, because I truly believe that if us as men understand what our emotions are telling us and we know how to deal with it and we know how to clear it, because I'm telling you, it works. I've done it time and time again. I've recognized an emotion. I got the message. I processed it. And the moment I processed it and found out what was going on and did what I need to do, emotion cleared. Whether it was frustration, emotion cleared. Sadness, emotion cleared. Anxiety, emotion cleared. Overwhelm, emotion cleared. I'm telling you, it works. It absolutely works. So that way, now I'm not afraid of any emotion that might come my way, because it's just a message. It's not bad. Our brains are not our enemies. Our brains are our allies, designed to keep us safe. And it alerts us when something's going on. And then when we are alerted, we're supposed to do something about it. But a lot of times, us as guys, or just people in general, really, at times, but mainly us as guys, we ignore the message. We suppress it. We pretend it's not there. We keep pushing it to the side. Get away, get away, get away. And it does damage to us. It pushes us into addiction. It pushes us into drinking. It pushes us into anger. It pushes it into rage. It pushes us into shutdown. It pushes into try to be stoic. No, we got to just address it. Guys, we can do it. Come on, listen. Some of us as men, we're running into firefights. No, we're doing like what seems impossible. We're doing all these crazy things, taking these wild risks. If we can do that, guys, we can face our emotions. Like, we could face the trauma that we've experienced as a child. We can face the trauma we experienced as a man. We could do that. Now, as far as trauma specific, let me just say this, because I don't want people to get wild and start doing crazy things. I strongly recommend, if you've experienced a trauma, right, you have PTSD, you need to get yourself with a professional that works specifically with PTSD. I don't work specifically with PTSD. I don't have that certification. I don't have EMDR or anything like that. But I strongly recommend you find someone who works specifically with PTSD, because there's really strong emotional and physical ties when it comes to that unprocessed trauma. Because that's a whole bunch of emotion tied up that can't get processed, doesn't go anywhere. So every time something comes up that's similar, guess what? We're triggered all over again, as if the thing just happened. And that's not how our emotions are supposed to be. They're supposed to happen. We recognize them, we answer the call, we clear it, we move on. So now the situation is now separated in the brain. It's separated from the situation, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, we did feel that, but we don't need the signal anymore. Yeah, I just felt sad at that time. I felt happy at that time. I felt angry at that time, whatever. But there's the emotion itself is not with it anymore. But with trauma, the emotion is right there with the experience. So every time it happens over and again and over again and over again. So I strongly recommend, men, if you have experienced something that's that traumatic, if you have PTSD, especially for our veterans, our military men, our law enforcement, firefighters, all you guys, first responders, because you all see some pretty graphic, serious stuff, strongly recommend that you find a provider who does PTSD type treatment, right? That works through that, because it does require, again, special skills and things like that. You gotta learn how to do grounding and things of that nature. Now, granted, I could teach you people the skills, the breathing, the journaling, the other using your senses, things of that nature. But again, I really would highly recommend that you find help from someone who has experience in dealing with it, especially if you're if you're in for your first responder, or if you're in the military. They do have special they have therapists who work specifically with that, right? So I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. I know it's how much time we got? It was 28 minutes. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. And I was talking, I said on my other podcast, my preaching podcast earlier today, the goal isn't to sit here and hold you up for, a whole hour each time. Whatever we got to do, we hit it and we go. So sometimes it'll be an hour, sometimes it'll be 30 minutes, sometimes it'll be 45, sometimes it might be 15. You know, I don't know if it'll be 15. I tend to be kind of long-winded. But guys, we busted some myths today. Guys, we busted up some myths regarding whether we should just have logic or whether it should just be emotion. You know, and I hope you guys take that stuff to heart. Guys, we need to become fully integrated beings, because we are fully integrated beings. You know, people talk about, well, we can compartmentalize. We shouldn't be compartmentalizing. Right? We shouldn't be blocking off parts of who we are. You know, like people who do that are those who have dissociative identity disorder. They compartmentalize to the point where they got different personalities in different compartments. That's not how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be fully integrated at all times. So, no compartments. We ain't doing that. We need to be full, actual men that are fully engaged with not just our logic, but also our emotion, and know how to use them the right way to be there for the people that we're leading. Very, very important. All right, so guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything at all, please feel free to let me know. Love you guys. Listen, stay tuned. We'll be back next week. And next week, we're going to be talking about some of these classifications, talking about the alphas and the sigmas and the betas and the gammas and all that stuff like that. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be busting those up as well, because I know it's a big thing out there. Like, everybody wants to be an alpha male, or they want to be a sigma male and or beta males. We're going to bust all that stuff up, man. We're going to bust it all up, because there's a lot of fallacies in there, a lot of fallacies. It's going to kind of tie into what we were talking about a little bit today about being fully integrated. But again, we'll touch on that next week. If y'all need anything, you need any help, listen, the I Am Him men's group is going to be starting soon. It's going to be starting in May. So we got a couple of weeks, but we're going to be opening up. We're going to be starting in May. So, go to my website. I have the link there. You can sign up and then be there for the first group, be for the inaugural group. If we get a lot of interest, then I'll open up more slots. But just, yeah, guys, y'all take care, and remember, I am him. Tell yourself that. You're going to command your sphere. You're going to command where you stand. You're going to be the leader, provider, protector you're supposed to be, that you were born to be. So just stand up right now and say, I am him. Let that resound throughout you at all times. I am him. I am him. I am that guy. I am that one. So listen, let me stop, man. Y'all take care. Have a great, awesome, and blessed day, and I'll see you all next week.